Hey everyone, we got Stormseeker yesterday. My pulls were great. I'm still at awe at how good they actually were. Still very happy about this. And today we are going to take a look at Esther herself. She did convince me in Clash already. Super awesome to use, super fun unit. I'm loving her kit and I have lots of plans to showcase her in many different scenarios throughout the weekend. Although I should mention that my weekend is extremely packed. Like today I'm recording this. Once I'm done recording, I will straight go to buy groceries, then go straight to my friends to party a little bit. I had very good news. I'll be finishing my university really soon. I finally got an offer from the company I've been working at already as a student, so I'll be starting on April 1st in full time. And yeah, there's lots of exciting things for me personally to come in the next few days. But rest assured, my videos will remain the same as is. I will have to make a few cuts due to being working in full time soon. But I'll make a video on that when the time is coming. So mid-end to March is when I'll be talking about my plans going forward. But rest assured, nothing will change other than the time slots. Like I won't be able to make videos on Thursday anymore right after reset or maintenance. That's going to be all of it is going to go to the end of the days basically, or the weekends. But no compromise in quality nor quantity. It's just that the time slots will change, well, dramatically. But yeah, so much for that. Let's take a look at the Bunny Girl Stormseeker Esther, the first real premium unit, in my opinion, that is. Yours may vary. But I'm a fan of her, so let's go. Base form, she's an LB chainer, not really tied towards Clash of Worlds, as we will see in a few seconds. And in Brave Shift, she's an Omni tank, mainly focused on Clash of Worlds, but she does have application cases outside of it as well. And the sprite is super cool. I like it. So the kit. As you've seen, the kit is not your standard premium unit kit as the JP server does it, with 3 abilities, and that's it. Well, 2 abilities plus multicast. Esther's stuff is stacked. She retains her bolting strike ability, bolting slice cord, but it's bolting strike. It's just, well, pretty much the same as the 7-star, but it does a lot more. Bolting impact for Stardust Ray, so technically speaking, Gumi found a way to somewhat revive Noppy because Esther and Noppy can chain. I like it, even though Esther has no morale scaling, sadly. But it's an option, right? Other than that, the real important parts are the cooldowns and grandises. So True Stormbrand, 60% lightning amp. Awesome stuff. It's right on par with other premium units such as Sephiroth, for example. And technically, it's even better than those. It's on par with Lara Croft, who is not a premium unit, which I like. So technically speaking, on Element, Esther eclipses to some degree Sephiroth, Auron, what's her name, Tifa, and Tyvus, because she's the first premium unit with a 60% amp. And it's not a stupid Grandis, it's a cooldown ability, which is available throughout the whole fight if you want so. And this one has a 100% uptime. Number 2, which I really like, is the Imperil on it. It's a 135 Imperil to boot as well. But all the other premium units have to use a secondary action for that. Esther, on the other hand, she's got it all. She also imbues herself with lightning on that ability, which is another upside of hers that we'll be talking about in a minute or two. The other cooldown, Energizing Bunny, it's an all party members killer buff, 120% though, but that's fine. It's more than any other premium unit has. Best case scenarios, they have it on their own SLB, for example. I think Tyvus or either Auron has it or both of them. I think Auron has killer buff on his SLB. And that one is lower. That one is 100%. So Esther, yet again, power creeping the other premium units here. And the fun thing is, this is towards 4 types. It's Demon, Machina, Stone, and Reaper. Super good. Also accuracy buff, which is another crazy thing. Usually when units have accuracy buffs, it's either on an LB, such as Onion Knight, or on different abilities. Esther, she just stacks it all into one. The other cool thing, but on a huge cooldown, is Quantum Storm, which grants Chain Lightning, which is a chain. It's an attack, lightning physical, that chains in Extreme Nova, which is her limit burst frames. So the one downside that she brings with her, the chain frames on her limit burst, she solves that on her own via this ability. There's also a secondary option with the story materia that you can get that also grants the Extreme Nova frames. And then lastly, the new gimmick of hers, Calm Before the Storm. It's a Grandis that uses all 3 charges upon usage, but this is a rechargeable Grandis, meaning if you limit burst, which we'll be getting to in a minute again, you can replenish the charges and thus have this an infinite amount of times throughout the fight. It's a 30% Greatsword in Peril, and the main thing is that she not only increases her LB modifier by 175x, but this is necessary, but it also increases her LB damage by 300%, which is crazy. You don't need Zidane's STMR or anything for this. She does it on her own, and in that regard, she is as self-sufficient as is Lara Croft. Now, mind you, Lara Croft is not a premium unit, which I'm very happy about. But yeah, Esther still does a lot more things than Lara Croft, so the comparison, it's apples and oranges to some degree. Esther does a lot more than Lara. On the passive side of things, I can zoom out again because this one's better. So the first thing you'll notice, Esther does not start with a full LB gauge. That's one downside, but it's understandable because having Esther start with a full LB gauge could be considered overpowered. Now, is it an issue to fill her LB gauge? No. A Bolting Strike, for example, is a 35 LB gauge filler, and she has lots of LB fill on her abilities anyway. But being able to start off with a full LB gauge on turn 1, especially with the tanking stuff in mind, which we'll be getting in her Brave Shift in about 2 minutes or so, it would be a little bit too strong, and I can see why Gumi did this in her case. The X+2 abilities, it's Surging Energy, which just does more stuff, right? Not worth talking about. It's more killers, I think. So it's good, but not super necessary to talk about. And 500 static attack. Now, what I personally like is that Charged Atmosphere passive. It's a chain accelerator, 200%, so your units damage at max potential faster, which is really, really good. All of that combined means that she will reach, even on her own limit burst, the max potential damage part super quickly, especially with 200%. It's 300 as max, so you're almost done right away. Absolutely crazy, and it's super good to have. The chain modifier cap, she has 5x cap innately, which is the standard these days. And yeah, I mean, she has 50% Omni Killer, and if you equip her with a TMR or STMR, which includes the 7-star TMR and TMR and STMR, you also get 150% additional Demon, Machina, Stone, and Reaper Killer, which means it's 200% to those 4 right away. This is almost on par with Louise, who isn't technically speaking a damage dealer. And Esther has 4 200% killers. The only strict DPS unit that does better than this is Knights of Grandsheld. They have 200% to everything, but Knights of Grandsheld are locked to light, hard locked to light. Esther is not. So that's the huge difference here. So Esther's base form kit is already amazing. And let's check out her limit burst. It's at max a 375x modifier. And it replenishes the free charges to Calm Before the Storm, which we just saw, and the electromagnetic shield in the Brave Shift, which is super cool. On the flip side though, the cost at 100 LB crystals is super high as well. And once again, we have two huge upsides to this. A, before this damage appears, she's buffing her attack by 350x, which is super cool if you don't have, say, Ares on your team. The other thing, it's a downside though, it's that the area effect, which is 100% LB damage, is listed after the damage is happening. Meaning, when you use it for the first time, her LB damage shouldn't apply, or the LB field shouldn't apply to the damage. It will apply once you use it a second time though. On the other hand, the second thing that I don't like about this is that it states all units, meaning this applies to both the enemy field and the own field, which then again also implies that you cannot use this with other fields such as Thunder Sakura. Now the game, it's a little bit weird. The game, technically speaking, says you can do it both. It's been fixed though, so yeah. It's only, you can only decide between one, and the calculations will be showing which one is preferable. Spoilers, amps or imperils are always higher than these increases. Let's check out the Brave Shift, another very stacked side of things in terms of abilities. So she is becoming a tank. She can technically burst a little bit and help with the morale gauge with Shatter Bolt, but all of her abilities, or almost all of her abilities, cost LB crystals. And this is what I meant with giving her a full LB charge at the start of the battle would be a little bit overpowered when you consider what all her abilities do. Take for example Storm Defender, her cover. While the cover amount, 75 to 85, is the standard, the huge kicker here is the 4 evasion stacks for 5 turns. I would consider this over the top already with all the other things it does. So I can see why they don't give her the full LB gauge at the start. The same applies to Boundless Stasis. Same deal, 75% mitigation, standard stuff. But it also does type mitigation against 4 enemies and also has that 4 evasion stacks stuff on it. That's a little less costly than Storm Defender, but yeah, I guess you get the point why she doesn't start with full LB gauge. She retains a True Storm brand, she retains Energizing Bunny and Quantum Storm, and the new ability she has is Storm Guardian, which is super cool. 90% mitigation, 2 turns, costs 10 LB. While the cooldown is rather long, it is very good. And I mean, it also has that 15k barrier at max morale, which is nice. And another 5 Mirage stacks for self. Sadly not for everyone. That's the kind of thing I would have liked to see on a 10 turn cooldown. But I guess with Roka around, 10 turn cooldowns can be reduced significantly. And then lastly, the electromagnetic shield, which is the craziest thing I've seen in a long time. It's an Omni cover, spammable technically, if you alternate between this one and the LB one. It lasts 3 turns, which is crazy. Chao's Omni cover only lasts 2, for example. Has a huge defense buff, 75 mitigation. Well, but funnily enough, it reduces lightning resistance by 100%. I don't know why that is, but yeah, okay. And the other thing, and I guess that's why it has the lightning imperil to self, is because she can then absorb lightning damage, not only for self, but for all allies. Absolutely crazy. Now, there's one thing I do want to mention though, and that is discharge and recharge. This one grants a counter chance to all allies, and in Clash of Wills, if you're using Skye, this is some actual next level trolling. Because if Skye counters, she's going to jump. Yeah, that's not a cool thing. So whenever you use Skye, make sure to never use discharge and recharge. If the boss hits everyone and ignores cover, for example, you'll be having a very bad time. Just saying. Passive side of things, more of the same from the base form, retains pretty much all of it, but fixes the attack for defense, and that's it. It's still very good though, all in all, and overcharged physique is rather ridiculous, as she can guts any damage 3 times with an 11% HP lock. The HP lock is fixed at 3 times, by the way. So that is, I don't know, it's overpowered. It's just too strong in my ability. 3 fixed HP locks, yeah. Now, granted, when you're getting hammered by the boss and you reach that 11% fix threshold, when the boss hits you again and you get below that, you're dead. But if there is only a single attack that should otherwise kill you, it won't, and Esther will remain at 11%. Absolutely crazy. I don't see any usage case yet, but I think upcoming trials will make this, well, somewhat mandatory to have, or rather nice to have. And her Brave Shifted LB, it's another Omni cover with 50% mitigation, so it's a better one. But sadly, it does not replenish the Magnus gauges, so I don't see it happening all too often, although it has a 150% lightning increase, but so does Tiana, for example, and hers lasts 5 turns. I can see the reason behind this, and it's not that bad, but I personally wouldn't use it. I'm fine with just using her Magnus and replenish it with damage, for example. Alright, the TMR and STMR. TMR, Materia, 60% attack defense, 25 Demon Machina Stone Reaper killer. Honestly, that's just another graceful footwork, but different killers. And truth be told, it's nothing really too special for a premium unit. I do kind of expect a little bit more from that. The wonky stuff they did with Tifa and her Chain Accelerator, for example, that's cool. I would have preferred something along those lines. The STMR, on the other hand, is a great sword. 220 attack, 1.0 to 1.6x variance. This will get updated. I don't know the updated values, but it's going to be good. And it is already good at 75 LB damage passively for everyone. And Esther variants also gained 500 static attack. So it's super good on herself. Now one could make a case, why not use a gun? Well, the 500 static attack outshine every other option basically. Even pre and post variants fix. This weapon, I personally got it 4 times. Will be a lot more relevant once the variants update rolls around, which is March 17th. As the variants will get updated, it will have a lower or higher floors bottom, but remains, I think the highest floor remains, but the lower floor increases, thus making the weapon more desirable in general. And with her 30% Greatsword in Peril, it's a good weapon to use. Though strictly speaking, guns and fists, due to the 35% imperils, which are on units that are actually still useful, Louise Cacteria, is a little bit superior in that regard. But all in all, I have a good feeling that the Greatsword meta, it'll come eventually, and Esther's Greatsword will be part of it, especially due to the high attack and the 75% LB damage. Skye, for example, whenever you bring Skye to a fight but not and don't have Louise, you will probably bring Esther along the way for that Greatsword Imperial, and then both Esther and Skye will use that Greatsword. Alright, the Vision card. One of the probably greatest, let's say it, I don't want to say disappointments because it's not a disappointment, but it could have been better. So it's a premium card, everything is at level 1, unlocked already, 125 attack, 110 base defense, 100 attack and defense percentage with a greatsword equipped, nice. 50% no, not LB, sorry for that typo. It's 50% Demon, Undead, Stone, and Machina Killer, physical. And the last one is 75% LB damage. That's where the typo came from. So the stats, I mean, they are fine. What I'm not fine with is that it's 4 different killer types at only 50%. I personally, maybe that's just me, I would have preferred a single type at 100%, such as Stone, or maybe even 2 types at 75, say Stone Machina. I would have been fine with that, but 4 types at 50%, that feels kind of lackluster. I understand that with Behemoth, this is a 100% killer vision card, but then again, Tyvus's card, Oran's card, etc. Those are 150 killer cards when accounting for Behemoth, for example. So yeah, in total this is 200% killers if you take them individually, but on a grand scheme of things, it's still disappointing versus the other premium cards. So yeah, I mean, the vision card itself is still amazing for units such as Sky, but funnily enough, Esther on a build that does not need those 4 innate killers, she does prefer the global exclusive True Double Hand card, for example, and we'll see that in a second as well. So yeah, it's a good card, but it's not a premium card, I would say. It's somewhere between. It's somewhere between premium and non-premium. Hard to judge, but it's definitely better than non-premium cards, but a little bit worse than those actual premium cards. So the damage stuff, you can look through this. I did not include the LB field for a reason, and you will see why in a minute. Again, if you want to read through all of this, pause the video for a second and check it out. But here's Esther's build. Now the builder wasn't updated, so I used my own. And as you can see, on an optimal Beast Killer build, Esther uses the True Double Hand card. And this is one of the reasons I told you guys 2 months ago or so to get this card. Yeah, I'll leave it at that, why I did this. So I told you to get this card because it would see use, and it's going to see a lot more usage also next month going forward. So this card will be in a lot of builds going forward. One being Esther, for example. The other being, what's his name? The furry guy. You all know, Curtain. Sorry for that. Curtain is also using this, and more units are coming. So this is the build for Esther. It's really slot efficient, as you can see. She easily maxes Beast Killer. Technically, without graceful footwork, she'd be at 275. And other killers, they are easier, right? With 4 killers at 200% innately, as you can see, and that's why I included the killer boosts on this. I geared this towards beasts, and we still maxed out Machina, we almost maxed out Demon, and we almost maxed out Stone and Reaper as well. So the efficiency level of Esther is off the charts. And with Behemoth, as you can see, nothing is below 100% here. So this is really, really strong. And gearing Esther for killers and LB damage is the least of an issue you can ever have. With this, she also reaches 300% LB damage. So yeah, the damage comparison. As you can see, Esther ranks at the top with a lot of asterisks counted into this. And that's why there's a red bold bullet point on this. Take these numbers with a grain of salt. And that one is Esther. She is accounted for with a 35 Greatsword Imperil. The only unit that has that 35% Greatsword Imperil is Neo Vision Cloud. Will you ever use Neo Vision Cloud? No, you won't. The other thing that helps the light build of Esther to shine this brightly is Nyx's Field. Will you ever use Nyx in a team these days? The answer is most likely no. Now, if you take away the Nyx Imperil field and the 35% Greatsword Imperil and just replace it with her own 30% Imperil, Esther only, or Esther drops below her Lightning build, and she's just slightly above Holy Dragoon Kain with the Noglex card. So she is below LB finish Lara Croft, but above Holy Dragoon Kain. No, she's actually above both. She's below Sephiroth on the SLB field. Esther on a dark team, however, she does not have that issue. She always will gain that 45% M from Kryla. She will always gain that 30% Imperil field, or not Imperil field, amplifying field from Yuna, and that's fixed. Because when you deal damage with her, keep in mind her LB field sets up after dealing damage. So for the full duration of her LB, she will be making use of that 75% total amplification. And that is why Esther on a dark team sims that highly. And that is a constant. That will not change. And that means Esther is our top dog DPS, but she's only very, very slightly above Tyvus. Now Tyvus, I do want to mention this once again, Tyvus has the full support build here. 135 Fire Imperil, 25% Fire Imperil field, and the Louise amplification field. So Tyvus's numbers will heavily vary depending on your support. And the same applies to Esther. So this is one of the shortcomings I'm starting to really feel on this sheet, because the more supporting stuff there is, the more these numbers are skewed towards a single element. And the two elements that are over the top right now are Fire and Dark. I'm not quite sure how to fix this yet, but I will fix that sometime later, hopefully. The other thing I do want to point out is the SLB field. How does it affect the other units? And as you can see, Tyvus with Esther's LB field loses damage. The reason for that is you cannot have other fields active at the same time. That just doesn't work. So what you're giving up on Tyvus is the Peril field, as well as the amplification field from Lena and Louise respectively. Now the LB field, as you can see, it doesn't fare that badly compared to the Imperil and amplification field, but it's better to have those up regardless. So will Esther and Tyvus synergize? Yes, obviously. Because again, Esther's field applies at the end of the damage. So you want to send in Esther last, such that all the other units deal the damage before Esther's field is up. That's how you want to do this. And it's going to work. It's not that hard to pull off. So yeah, whenever you use Esther with other premium units, make sure to use her last in a chaining rotation, such that you don't override the good fields. The same applies to Sephiroth, by the way, Auron as well. I just was too lazy to do the calc, because it should be obvious that the STLB field doesn't provide as much oomph to the party in comparison to Imperil fields or amplification fields. The only unit that actually can profit from this is Tifa for some weird reason. I don't quite understand why myself, but Tifa, for her, it doesn't matter. Apparently, so that's cool, I guess. But yeah, that's about it. She's a super strong unit, but on a dark team, which is the most realistic one, she is quote unquote only on par with Tyvus. But again, Tyvus has full support. And without that, he'd be a little bit worse off. Same applies to Weltall Graf and Avalanche Tifa, who is built towards a best case scenario. So all in all, I feel like Esther is about, and that's just a rough estimate, she should be above the other premium units by about 2 to 3% is what I would feel. So she isn't that huge meta spike I was hoping for. Unless you actually give her that full support in light, then she is a huge spike compared to the other ones. But all in all, she's in a good place. Her damage is very comparable to all other units. She's not a super standout unit. And Weltallgraf, Kayn, they are all comparable to her, even though Kayn, for the time being, without the variants and Dragoon fix, looks worse, but he will catch up soon. Okay, so how does she fare in the meta? In my opinion, Esther is the first real premium unit because she is not only super strong as a DPS with the right support, she can also tank very well due to her stacked cooldowns and abilities she has. And other premium units, especially vetted against Auron and Tyvus, they pale in comparison because they can't do anything. Esther, on the other hand, she fills out both the DPS and the tanking role super well. And with the Omni cover as a nice gimmick, she really is the full package. And from my point of view, all units should be the baseline, but not at premium cost, because this design of Esther as a whole is perfect. I love it. It's the ideal, it should be the ideal standard for units in general. And from there on out, I would define premium as even more than that, just to make the cost actually worth something. But I'll take it. Esther is a super good unit, and she is, in my opinion, again, the first real premium unit, where I find the 60k pity cost somewhat justifiable. But on the other hand, she does have her own weaknesses, mainly the LB field that messes things up unnecessarily. It should have been your own field of a party field, not an all party or all field. I don't know how to say this. This should have been a field that only applies to your own party and not to the entire playing field. That's how you word this. The other thing is, I don't like the extreme Nova frames on her limit burst. It just means that some unit has to step in either from her cooldown ability or with the materia, and it's just it should not have been, it shouldn't be that complicated. I don't know why they gave her extreme Nova. It should have been bolting strike, but alas. And yeah, the other weakness is the vision card compared to other premium units, but those are minor things in my opinion. Other than that, her versatility will be something people will use all the time going forward, and her being an elementless 375x LB chainer is going to be all the rage in Dark Visions and Vision Worlds, as well as Clash of Worlds going forward. She has that huge upside. She is not penalized in regards to elements such as Auron, Tyvus, Tifa, Yuna, you name it. All those units have a huge downside of mixing elements. Esther doesn't. Well, she is not able to use Tyvus' Estimor sadly, because that overlaps with her 2-turn 300% LB boost and the LB modifier increase. So you have to choose, but even at 375x, she still deals more damage than the others with optimal support. And another thing to note is that she pairs exceptionally well with Kayn, Edge, and Thunder Sakura. So the next Dark Visions, it may see a lightning team at the very top with these 4 units, Kayn, Edge, Sakura, and Esther. Alright, last part, should you pull? I do want to mention again that she is a premium unit and thus very expensive to EX plus 2 or even EX plus 3. I've seen a few people in my comments that they were lucky enough to EX plus 3 her from a single pity. Awesome stuff, but rest assured, that's not you, that's not me. I paid almost 2 pity worth. I spent 130k plus 95 euros to EX plus 3 her. I think it's worth it. but your mileage may heavily vary. Also, please keep in mind that I always spend all the money I make off of YouTube into FFBE, so I do have that extra cash to throw onto the game, because it's basically, yeah, whatever I make from the game, I invest in the game. One thing to note is that you only really need EX plus 2, as the vision card can be skipped in favor of the true double hand global exclusive vision card. Now, if you skip that vision card, despite my efforts in telling you to get it, well, the only option is to go for either the current true dual wield card that is still up for grabs on the Kayn banner, or, well, EX plus 3 Esther. And yeah, Esther will be a staple in Dark Visions, like I mentioned again, and potentially even in Clash of Wills due to the killers for a while. So make sure to keep that in mind. And in my opinion, you should go for her, as she's worth every single ounce and number of lapis. Is it worth going for more than 130,000 or 2 pities? No, I don't think so. That's just too much to ask for. But if you can afford it, to pity her once and get a few more copies along the way, such that you, best case scenario, you get her EX plus 2, that's worth it. If you're unlucky as Sinsar, for example, the poor guy, he only got a single one on the way to his pity. Even then, she's a strong unit, but she really takes off at EX plus 2 or above. And again, if you cannot afford to pity, I would not advise to pull at all, because she is expensive. The banner rate is bad, 4% NV rate, but only 1% on banner rate. So 1 out of 4, or a 25% chance that whenever you see a Neo Vision crystal, it's going to be her, and that's a bad chance. The usual is 3% Neo chance, 1%, meaning a 33.3 continuing chance, which is higher than what you do have now. And while some people say on average you should get more on that 4% thing, no, you won't. And you can take any number, and it will always be the case that with a 3% Neo chance and 1% on banner chance, you will get more, or at least equal to, and it will feel worse at the 4% chance than at the 3% chance. Which then, it's a whole marketing scheme. I'm not going to go through this. We are almost 40 minutes in. But rest assured, you will feel bad with all the off banners you get. And that drives emotion, and emotion drives irrational behavior, and irrational behavior tends to lead to spend more money. And that's why 4% is bad when compared to 3%. Ceteris paribus, meaning holding all else equal. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. It's a little bit longer one, but Esther warrants this. And yeah, I hope your pulls went well. I hope this was helpful in deciding whether to pull or not. And we'll see each other on Saturday, tomorrow. I'll do more Clash videos. I'll do a showcase video of Esther. And yeah, there's lots of things to come. There will be also the monthly outlook for March on Sunday, so don't miss that. And with this, I'm saying goodbye for today. We'll see each other tomorrow. Have a wonderful rest of the Friday evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you're from. Bye bye.